Hello, everybody, and welcome to the December episode of Maw of Mike. With that would be me. I'm Michael Curtis, the director of product development for Dungeon Crawl Classics here at Goodman Games, and this is our monthly show where we let you, the fan, the aficionado, the gong farmers, and you all know what's kind of coming down the pike with DCC. And we've got several guests coming in to join me tonight, starting with a man who you're probably very familiar with your artwork, not with his artwork, not so much, not so. Look, it's right behind us, so obviously. So, Mr. Stefan Poag. Stefan, thank you very much for coming on the show. How you doing tonight?
Thank you, Mike. I'm doing well.
Good. I'm glad you come here because we've got big news about, well, it's kind of like follow-up big news. So as we announced last month, there is a 9th printing of the Dungeon Crawl Classics rulebook, which is coming out. All right, so hopefully we have audio back now. We had a slight difficulty involving Moose, but that has been resolved. It was Moose and tubes. It was a Moose tube related incident. So we are theoretically back, and all right. So they're chiming in the chat, so it's working again. So to reiterate what I said before the Moose showed up, the 9th printing of the hardback rule set will be available December 15th through the Goodman Games site, and will also be going out to friendly neighborhood local game stores that week as well. So if you've been holding off, if you need a last minute Christmas gift, that's basically where you need to go. So, we were talking. But no way could hurt you, Stefan. You were doing our alternative cover this year. So that makes you a member of a rather elite group, because we haven't had too many of those. So so basically, you can tell us a little bit about the cover itself. I mean,
well, Joe gave me the brief of classic role-playing fantasy, that we had a number of other covers with different sort of references, and so that's what he wanted, kind of to fill out the shelf, I guess. So I went in. Of course, it had to have a dragon, and it was going to be in the dungeon, and I kind of wanted, like a variety of the different encounters you might have as your player characters level up. And then, of course, there's a not so subtle swipe from Elmore in there that a lot of people have seen. The warrior with her back turned is mirroring the pose of Elmore's red box painting.
Okay, all right, I can see that. So when you said there had to be a dragon, was that from the boss's marching orders, or was that you personally, your decision? It had to have a dragon.
I think that was Joe. I think Joe started with that, but I was happy to go with it.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I mean, I have to say is that when I saw when Joe shared your piece for you were still working on it at that time too. I was like, this is my new favorite, alternate cover. I just love it. I love the color composition of it. I mean, it's just such a great piece, which, as you were saying, it's like, it's very much that classic kind of fantasy thing, but a lot of the DCC covers, the alternate covers, have been very DCC, but this kind of goes back to the roots of fantasy and everything, which is and in your own irreplaceable style and everything. So
Thank you.
I think I see. I have to say, like every artist hopefully desires to have like their own recognizable style, obviously, unless you're a disciple of Thomas Kincaid or something, but but I have to, like from really early on, I was always able to recognize one of your works over, like, oh, that Stefan did that, Stefan did that, and it's just been, how long have you been working for Joe? I mean, it's,
I think I started working for him back in the 2000s doing 3E stuff.
Okay.
For the D20 line, and then when he started to come up with the concept of DCC, he brought me in fairly early on that, because we had known one another for working together on D20.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really pleased to be asked.
Right. And I think it's great too, because you are one of like the kind of the core group who have really made DCC what it is just by the way that you are kind of illustrating all of Joe's, like this I have a very specific idea for what I want to do with DCC, which is it's not D&D, it's kind of D&D, it's like this is the same thing and everything. And I think styles like yours and Doug's, and Brad's and everything, it's everybody's kind of bringing their own stuff to the table to it and make it very much their own, so.
Yeah, yeah, and we all read the Appendix N literature, and we quiz one another actually on occasion.
So well, speaking of that, do you have a favorite? I mean, you mentioned an Elric thing, but is there one that you keep going back to?
I keep going back to Vance,
Okay.
which I have expanded into while I'm working. Sometimes I listen to also some of his science fiction work, like Planet of Adventure is a favorite. So if you haven't yet, people out there in TV land, do yourself a favor and pick up Jack Vance, Planet of Adventure.
You're like the third person who's recommended Planet of Adventure to me, and I think I really have to go back to that, because I read Dying Earth, and I went through the entire thing, and the first time I went through it I was like, oh, this is very interesting. I can see where all the Gygaxian influences, where he's drawing from it and everything like that. And then I tried it a few years later, and I bounced hard off of it the second time around. For whatever it was, I was just like, I don't even think it wasn't like a language issue. Like, it might have just been I wasn't in the right place at the right time mentally, and I was really having trouble getting behind Kugel again as a protagonist, everything. So I was just like, I said that somebody was like, you should try Planet of Adventure if you bounce off hard. It's like, all right. I was like, I'll give Vance another shot then, and then maybe I can come back to Dying Earth. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, if Kugel sometimes, he kind of infuriates you because he's just such a bastard. So, it's maybe good to step away from that. We have enough bastards in the world right now. We don't need another one in fiction.
It's kind of like why I don't watch Seinfeld. It's like, I don't want to spend any time with you people in real life, let alone spend 30 minutes every week tuning into you. So, all right. So I should have mentioned that so it's been announced that you're doing the cover. So there's new Stefan Poag on it. But what I don't think that people are quite aware of is the fact that basically every printing for the last couple of them, there's been new Stefan art in there, because you've been going back and you've been basically redoing some of your older work.
Yeah, that's been kind of fun. It's something that Joe, kind of gave me permission to redo some of the stuff, and I just kept redoing it. He never said stop. But a lot of them were drawings that I did early on, and I liked them, but I thought I could do them better. And some of them are kind of reinterpretations, the same scene.
I think when on Keep Crawling, when we had Errol, when Errol Otis came on, we were talking with him, and we kind of came up with the idea of like the concept, the discussion of going back to your older work. And I personally, as a writer, I hate going back to like the stuff that I did, years ago, because I hope that because every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, hopefully I'm so much better now. It's like, I would do this completely different now, and everything like that. And it's a little bit easier for me as a writer, because I don't have to look at my old stuff unless I want to. Like, if somebody can wave like the Sequin Escapes underneath my nose, like, but unless you physically by gunpoint maybe go through and read it again, I can avoid it. Where I guess when you work in a visual medium, it's like, hey, look at this, you did this, or asking you to sign it or anything. It's like, it's not quite so easy to escape your former former work and say, so is that like an issue at all? Is it just like, I mean, I wish I could go back in time? Or
Yeah, no, I think it is, wanting to go back in time and do it better, and show people that, I don't know, time moves on, you learn new things. And sometimes you can just maybe tweak it a little. I mean, I'm hoping it'll be enjoyable for people who have multiple copies, that they can look at the two and maybe compare them. That might be fun for them too, because that's certainly fun for me. going through and finding the drawing and thinking of a new way to do it.
Uh, is, and is that all? I mean, how much of a challenge is that? Is it is that part of the enjoyment of doing it again? Like, how am I going to retackle something I've already done?
Well, I mean, now that you mention it, there's a step I left out in describing it. Joe was doing some edits on the book, and there were a couple of things that we talked about where the text and the image didn't quite fit in together very
Mhm.
well. There'd be like a gap or something. And so I was like saying, well, if I could add a little bit to this drawing, which is what I did with one of the drawings it might have been like the 7th printing or the 6th printing, I can't remember. But I like just there was like a little white space in there, and I just thought, oh, if I expand this drawing just a little bit, I just drew an extra part and stuck it on there, then it'll fit the space better. And we did that a few places, and Doug stuck some new little widgets and different things in. Um, so that was like the intermediate step.
Mhm.
And then I just went back in and redid some of them. I think actually that process that where we were just fixing little errors in layout um, was part of what inspired me, I guess.
Um, and I think it's interesting that you say like part of this goes back and is like fixing the layout a little bit too, because I remember when the Dungeon Alphabet came out, which was now 12 years ago. With the first, that was the first thing that I did for Joe, and that was basically the kind of the dry run for the DCC layout. Because like prior to, if you look at like the older, the 3.5 and the 4th edition stuff, it's all basically 2-column format layout with like maybe half-page art and stuff like that. And then Joe, when the Dungeon Alphabet came out, that's like he wanted to try getting that, kind of breaking away from that 2-column format and having the art like bleed into the text and all that stuff and everything. So even then, that was something that was kind of learning trial by fire. And then then to apply that to a book the size of the DCC, the DCC rule book, and then now we're 9 printings in, it's like, okay, now we're learning how to tweak the layout and change things up a little bit, and we can have the art bleed in a little bit more, so it's interesting. It's like, there's only one edition of DCC, but it's amazing how much it keeps changing, for every time it goes to printer.
Yeah.
Which is
And I
probably
mean,
why there's such a collector's market for DCC.
right on. And I think the layout, like when they did it the first time, it was such a big book and there was so much art in it, and we were illustrating it while they were still writing it. So that's why the text in the very first printings, there are some things layout wise that technically probably could be better, and we improved them later. But given the process at the time, they had to get it to print. There wasn't time for me to go in and fuss with little, oh, there's a 1/4 inch here that could have something in it.
well now now almost 10 years next year, now we can go back and and do that. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens for the 10th printing. So we're averaging about 1 printing a year, so that's pretty good. So
Right on.
so as long as you people keep doing your job and keep buying the rule books, keep making us print more of them, we'll keep futzing with the art and pulling out new stuff. And now, speaking of new stuff, and you told me something which was kind of distressing to me, is that going back, was it the 4th print? No, it wasn't the 4th printing that the first hidden message showed up, right? It was a little bit
It was
after that.
somewhere around there, yes.
Yeah, all right, but it has been kind of the tradition for you to sneak in a hidden message into the artwork, so of whether it's a cipher or something like that, and some of them went undiscovered for quite some time, for up to years before someone was like, hey, wait a minute, there's something here. And there was a continuing tradition. There's a hidden message in the book this year, And what did you reveal to me just before we went live? Is that
That it has already been solved.
yes.
Yeah, people solved it from the PDF. So,
So
but I mean, the rest of the public still can solve it, have the pleasure of solving the puzzle,
mhm,
but the prizes are all gone.
right. Well, which brings us something that I think is safe. We can mention this much. There might be stuff that people have yet to discover as well. So
It's,
there might be, it might be worth
there
taking a
might
look at that
be.
book, even if you think you have solved it. Maybe there's more because in prior editions, they're like, oh, I solved, I solved the puzzle, and the response was, which one? so, so if you are going out if you're going out on the 15th to order it, maybe that's what you can do over the holiday break, when the family's all together. You get around the Christmas tree, you get around the under the solstice moon, and you can sit down there and try to figure it out together.
That's right. Put all eyeballs on the cipher.
Exactly. So that's nothing like DCC to bring the family together. So it's going to be I think I'm very happy that this is the way this has come out again. I'm sure once people get a chance to kind of see it for themselves, they will always be, I mean, it's a DCC rulebook event. It can stop a bullet, it can beat down, I was going through the PDF today, and I realized something. I think in the next printing there's a running joke which you have to fix, because there was the dock worker, the trade good they have is an overdue RPG book. And I think that goes back to the fourth printing, where we had all sorts of issues of it being shipped.
Oh, that's right.
After 5 printings, it's time to remove that joke and put in another one.
Was it like SARS or something, that bird
Yeah.
flu?
Oh God, no. No, I think we'll safely avoid any sort of contagion for a little while. I think we're ready to move on. So, but thank you very much for being on, Stefan. I've got some more people waiting in the wings. But I appreciate you coming on, talking about the cover.
Great.
I think conventions are starting up theoretically in the coming year. Do you have any plans on traveling outside the home, or is everything still kind of up in the air right now?
Well, I've had, I am not sick, knock on wood, but I have had some long haul COVID symptoms. So I'm being very cautious, simply
Okay.
because I don't uh, I don't know if my immune system has been compromised.
All right. Well,
So I'm just going to be careful, and maybe I hope to see you, but it kind of depends on
understandable. Understandable. So I was just, because I know there's people who always they love meeting the artists at Gen Con, love coming by the Goodman booth, and you guys take over your corner and everything, and buying prints and getting stuff signed. So hopefully,
I look forward to it all year.
okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. We're going to cut to a quick break while we kind of rearrange some stuff and get some people out of the cages so we can put them in front of the camera. So, but we'll be right back. All right. Hello, everybody, and we are back, and we have said goodbye to Stefan, and we're saying hello to Reid San Filippo. Most of you out there probably know Reid from a little thing called Crawling Under the Broken Moon and Umerica. So, Reid, thank you very much for coming in here out of the post-apocalyptic wasteland to talk about that stuff. So,
well, thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure, man. We've been seeing each other, cons and other events going back a very, very long time. So
yes, we have.
Yeah. So speaking of very, very long times, you have been involved with Goodman Games, kind of in a third-party publisher since 2000 what?
14 officially.
Okay. All right. So that was like really when, like, I think you might be probably like maybe the second or third oldest zine, because I mean, because Crawling Under a Broken Moon. I mean, like,
yeah.
Crawl was like the first one that Dak put out. But so you've been around since the beginning. And
yeah, it was June of 14 that I put out the first issue of Crawling Under Broken Moon.
Okay, and for the people who are turning in, because we've seen a lot of people who have been discovering Goodman Games over the last year and a half, 2 years. So not everybody may not know what Crawling on a Broken Moon and what Umerica is. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about that?
A friend of mine introduced me to Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I immediately, going through the rule book, realized that this was the perfect framework for my idea to run a gonzo post-apocalyptic type style campaign in the vein of, say, like Thunder the Barbarian and Jason the Wheeled Warriors, and add a little Mad Max and all that kind of shenanigans into it. And then he introduced me to the first couple crawls, the crawl zine, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can do this. I have a publishing background from years ago, so why not? And so, literally within a few months of finding out about DCC, I was reaching out to Goodman and saying, hey, I've got a zine, can I have a license? And he said, sure. And that's what started it up. So it was I think it was March that I found out about DCC, and the first zine was out in June.
Okay, so obviously it lit a little fire under you. 3 months later, we had something out. So
Yep.
all right.
And I actually put out a zine every other month for 18 issues without fail.
Was it 18 issues?
It was 18 issues. And yeah, it was 18 issues. And then between issue 14 and 15, I wrote Mind Games, which I'm pretty sure was the first psychic rules for the DCC rule set.
Yeah, I remember because I think it came out just around Gen Con one year, right? It was like right around August or anything.
Yeah, I barely got the copies to Gen Con.
Get it to Indy in time for that. So
yeah.
So Crawling on the Broken Moon was the zine, which kind of gave birth to the Umerica setting, right?
After about the issue 15, I started thinking about, well, do I really want to keep on doing this as a zine, or do I want to actually do this as a full-sized book? So I started basically taking some of the basics that I felt were already in the zine, fleshing it out, and getting it ready to actually be a book. And shortly after issue 18 dropped, I started up a Kickstarter. And said, hey, does anybody want this book? And everyone's like, yes, take my money. And so that it funded not only the American Survival Guide with 2 different covers, it did the Twisted Menagerie manual and some modules.
Yeah, it's always nice when a Kickstarter, when you launch a Kickstarter and people are like, hey, I want this, as opposed to, hey, no, thank you. They have other times to do with their money. So it's so that was successful as a Kickstarter, which kind of leads us to announcement, which was just done late last week, I believe. I think it went live late last week. Some of us have known a little bit longer, and that announcement is, of course, that Goodman Games is basically going to become the distributor for at least the Umerica Survival Guide. We're going to kind of we're going to be bringing it to doing like basically what we do for DCC. So that has got to be that go from like a little handmade, I basically made this at home zine to something which has distribution and everything. So that is
Oh, and made at home was right. The first couple copies were made at home. Oh my goodness.
So congratulations for joining the big time.
Thank you. No, I'm looking forward to it. Joseph and I hit it off pretty well at first, although I had to learn a few things of the ropes, and I'm sure I was, he had to be patient with me a couple times. I remember, but it really formed into a great working relationship and a good working friendship. And I've really appreciated all of the advice and the help that he's given me, because I wrote the words and I steered the theme of Umerica, but some of the stuff that was going on in the background definitely was due to Joseph's dropping a little hint here and there of, hey, if you did this, it'd be better.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in this, as I always say, he's been in this industry for 20 years now. And how many third-party companies that came out during the 3.0 open game license boom are still around today. So obviously Joe knows what he's doing. He's learned it the hard way. So
right.
and he's always good. He's always got a good eye out for, you know, kind of what people are interested in, and you know, and obviously people were interested in crawling under Broken Worm, crawling under Umerica. So it was it seems like a natural point that we reach at this by now.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the you know, a full press run of it looks compared to the print on demand, because as much as the print on demand books are nice, there's nothing compared to an actual off the press book.
mm-hmm. And Joe knows how to, you know, get the most out of a printer and get a good book made. So
Yes,
yeah.
yes, he does.
So for people like, what would you say like the big influences on the Umerica? You mentioned some of them, you know, like, but if you like, would you say like what's the DNA? Would you say it's like 50% Thundar and like, you know, 25% like, you know, Masters
Well,
of the Universe?
I would say you take Thundar and the Saturday morning cartoons kind of that age, maybe a little Street Sharks, who knows? And you mix that with Mad Max and the 1,000 low budget ripoff movies that came out when VHS stores were thirsty for you know, things for people to rent. So they're like, you know, hey, everyone likes Mad Max, we'll get these 17 other films that are just like Mad Max. Oh my God, they're awful. And I watched every single one of them. As I put it, I abused my VCR with these, you know, the VCR is like, no more. Yes. And so, you know, I scarred myself for life with those. And then I decided to share those scars with you.
Right. So,
but yeah, so it's a little bit Mad Max, it's a little bit Adventure Time, it's a little bit Thunder the Barbarian. You know, there are gods, there is magic, there's also cyborgs, there's also aliens, there's also robots and blasters, and probably kitchen sinks that are alive and will kill you.
right. Right. So so how much material, if somebody is, because obviously Under Crawling Moke and Ruin has been, as you said, 18 issues of it, but how much of that stuff do you think makes it into like the Umerica survival guide? Like,
Oh,
like,
goodness. I mean, but the Umerica, the survival guide has, oh golly, not even a quarter of what was in the zine. And the other books that I've put out for the actual, you know, books to follow after the American Survival Guide still haven't scratched all the surface of the zine, which is why I put together the compilation of the zines into one big book. So that way, if they want to see what's still left, they could reasonably priced wise get a big hardback book of it.
Right. So if the discussion that we're having this evening, people are sitting around and it's like, well, this sounds like, oh my God, you know, Mad Max meets, you know, Thunder the Barbarian, I am in. The obvious answer, of course, is that you want to wait for the Goodman Games version to come out, you know, and then therefore, you know, everybody profits. But if somebody really wants to get in now, like, would you recommend like the survival guide just kind of as the gateway? If somebody
if you have the American Survival Guide, you have everything to play in the Umerica world setting. You don't need any of the other books. If you like monster books, that's what the Twisted Menagerie Manual is. The artwork up behind me is actually the cover from the Twisted Menagerie Manual. And it is got a slew of post-apocalyptic beasties. And it also has a few locations tied to those beasties. And it also has a listings of some personality / boss monsters that are also tied to the beasties. So you don't just get the monsters, you get like their boss and maybe where their hideout's at.
Right. All right. Well, that's good to know. I'm sure, you know, I'm sure people are right now cruising over to the Goodman Games website, where you can, if you do want to go do the whole dive in there, we the big compilation is available through the Goodman Games. That's all. That's
the
all
Crawling
18...
Moon compilation, the Survival Guide, the Twisted Menagerie Manual, the Road Atlas, which is another supplement that has more vehicle stuff in it and road trip adventure stuff, and the Umerica Unnatural, which has a completely revised and updated for more post-apocalyptic style psionic stuff and psionic classes, more magic spells, and so on. So there are, you know, several source books out there, hardback, and there's also 5 or 6 adventures.
Oh yeah, including Burger Wars, right?
Including Burger Wars, just in case the food theme was not clear.
Joan of Arc Destroyer in the chat had a question, and you might know this more than I do because you've been talking about it. She wants to know, is that will there be another Kickstarter? And
Gee, I can't imagine why Joan's asking about a Kickstarter. But yes, the original plan was that the Maximum Mutagenesis book was going to be kickstarted along with a couple different modules. But because of my illness, and I was slowly but surely, trying to work through things, I ended up getting the book finished. So I'm actually just waiting on proof copy. So the Maximum Mutagenesis is going to be out. I don't know if it's going to be out before Christmas, but it's going to be out as soon as I get a proof book and it's approved. So if it's not out by Christmas, it'll be out in January. After that, I will be doing a Kickstarter sometime first quarter, second quarter next year with a few adventures. Yes.
Okay, well, there you go. There you heard, people. So, we're distributing the Umerica Survival Guide, and hopefully it's the beginning of a long relationship. But in the meanwhile, Reid's still going to be pumping out stuff.
Trying.
Yeah. So here's a quick question for you, because we're getting low on time, and we still got some other people to bring on. But obviously, you were talking about your inspiration for Umerica, which is which seemed a lot for me as well, because I think there's certain gamers of a certain age who's like, we kind of grew up on Mad Max and all those really bad Italian cheapy horror movies like Warriors of the Wasteland, all the rest of that. So it's very interesting.
Steel Dawn.
People are saying a lot of stuff, like there's one of the things I hear is like, what's the difference between like Umerica, Crawling Under a Broken Moon, and MCC? And I think MCC is very much, it comes from that Gamma World background, which was James Ward, and James Ward's in like his inspiration for like the post-apocalyptic setting is he's like the generation before us. So he's a lot more of that kind of like that hard, like not hard science fiction, but like, Hot House and all the rest of that stuff, where we're really much more kind of like a really low grade, not so much in quality, but it's like the post-apocalypse wasn't quite so gonzo for us a lot of ways. It was more like, well, I'm going to be killing somebody over water soon. So I think so. And so you take that, but you add that kind of that level of craziness to it. So you're getting two kind of gonzo flavors, but they're kind of different gonzo flavors, so to speak.
Right.
So I think the influences are different. So you end up getting two different games, although it's kind of the same post-apocalyptic, like setting and everything. So
right.
Both a little crazy and everything. And I think this is, because obviously we can't get through a show without mentioning Mutant Crawl Classics. So I should let people know is that if you're looking for something to pick up while you're waiting for the Umerica Survival Guide to come out and Reid's Kickstarter again, on the December 15th, also the MCC printings will be coming out. The regular cover, the San Julian Mutant Astronaut cover will also be coming out at that point, and the soft cover version will also be available December 15th. Goodman Games web store hitting the distribution chain also that week, should be available at your friendly local gaming store. Mutants and marauders, notwithstanding, and taking out the postal trucks and everything. So Reid, I thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm very happy that you're going to be kind of like part of the Goodman Games family, and we're going to be getting your stuff out there. And as I say, hopefully it's the beginning of a long relationship of us.
I hope so too.
So
very much appreciate you bringing me on.
No problem, man. Anytime I can help. So, all right. So, and if you're looking for it, you can find it at the Goodman Games store. I think almost like everything you got out there is available through it, isn't it, right now?
Yes. Yeah. Everything should be available through Goodman Games.
All right. That's all you need to know, people. So take some of that Christmas and holiday money and spend it over on the website. We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back with our final guest in just a few. So stick around. Okay. Hey, everybody, we are back with my last guest of the evening, Mr. Stephen Newton. Stephen, thank you very much for coming on.
Hello, Mr. Curtis. Thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure to do these shows with you.
I feel like I've seen a lot of you this over the last couple of months, So, yeah.
It's the holidays. We get together and share.
It really is. It's holidays during a pandemic. Everybody gathers around the warm glow of the Zoom screen and you discuss what's coming up next. So, wow. But and speaking of warm holiday spirits, we have a warm holiday spirit to talk about tonight, and that would be a little adventure called the Feast of the Gobbler Witch that you have written for us. This for the 2021 holiday adventure, and as you might guess at home, although we did something for the holiday season, it's not quite the usual holiday season. So that actually came out. That came out kind of interesting because one of the early things that Joe had me do when he brought me into that position, brought me into my new position here, I was like, okay, we have to figure out the Christmas, the holiday adventure, and it's
Right.
like how much can we do with snowman? Like we've done a lot of snowman and stuff over there, and lo and behold, out of nowhere, Stephen said, "Hey, I got something." So
Yes.
why don't you tell us about that and how that came to be? So,
So glad to. So as always, again, thank you for having me on the show. So when you gave me the call about a holiday adventure, I'd had an idea in my head for a while to do a colonial era setting. I had this whole idea of crawl witch crawl in my head, and so I asked yourself and Joe, hey, how could would you guys be okay with Thanksgiving as the holiday that we celebrate this year in our adventure? And would you be okay if I mix some Salem witch trial stuff in it as well? And I expected a resounding no on that, but lo and behold, here we are.
right. And that might not be the only influence, involved in it, but maybe we won't talk about that to leave some of the surprises.
Yes.
As we discovered when we talked about the Tomb of the Savage Kings, there's only so much you could discuss about an adventure that has not been released yet, because we want to leave some of the surprises at home.
That is exactly right. Yeah,
So-
there's one or two more surprises in the adventure, some heavy influences, which as soon as judges read it, they will go, I see what they're doing here.
and to the answer to the question, Silkworm XL, yes, Stephen is wearing a Whataburger hoodie.
Yes. There we go.
So,
I love the Whataburger. We don't have them in California, so.
so what can you tell us about, for those of you, if you haven't guessed, Feast of the Gobbler Witch is our Thanksgiving themed adventure theoretically this year. So what can you reveal about it that you that the fans to whet their appetite for the feast? See what they're there. I'm genius. This is what I get on the show. This is like
So I do have a love of that era of history. So as we talked about when we did the other show a couple weeks ago, when doing these adventures, a lot of times what I will do is I will actually just go back to history and pull out interesting events or names or situations, and those can they can be fun to gamify, for lack of a better word. So this adventure blends, as I said, it blends a lot of the names, location, settings. I mean, I'll say inspiration. So it doesn't take place in Jamestown or Plymouth Rock or any of that, but things very similar to that will show up. And we try to find ways of gamifying and making being part of the Salem witch trials fun to play for your holiday table.
because if the Salem witch trials needs anything, it's a little levity. That's it.
That's right.
So.
And this is me, so it's like I think with only a little bit of tweaking, this could have been a horror adventure as well. And I know we did ratchet it down a little bit we'll look at the cover for Pete's sake, right?
That's the problem we've discovered, is that when you have Stephen and I doing an adventure, both of us like horror aficionados, we're like, what? It's like, and it was only until it was kind of like, yeah, maybe we should tone down the channel cannibalism a little bit just before we put this one out. It's like, turn that knob down a little bit.
You can allude to cannibalism, but you can't really be that explicit with it. It's like, oh, okay, I can get that.
Right. So I don't think it's been announced yet, but this is not just a holiday adventure. This is a holiday zero level funnel adventure, which I don't think we've discussed. I think
I don't think we have discussed that. But that works really well when you're doing a witch trial. So many of the, and I hope I don't become repetitive, but many of my funnels start with a very similar theme of introducing the characters, introducing the MacGuffin, if you will, and then roll for initiative because you are immediately being attacked. And we got to call, we can try to call a third of those, cheese makers in the first couple of rounds. So it actually works pretty well in terms of, there's a colony and there's a trial going on, and I will spoil it enough to say your characters may be accused of witchcraft, and that's why you're in the peril that you're in.
Yeah, I think that's we can discuss that without leaving too much out of it, because you just literally described the first 3 minutes of the adventure. I think
Right.
there's pretty much more out of that. So then it's basically them trying to get out of hot water, and or at least escape the flames, or whatever,
Yes.
by
The
under
pressing
by under,
stones, all of that. Yeah.
right, no. So by doing something they are tasked with, which then kind of it turns it basically into like a little bit of a hex crawl. I mean, it's a small island, so there's not a lot to go and everything, but they go around and they beat interesting people, and they get killed, and hopefully by the end of it they're able to kind of put together everything we usually be putting together. And I think it's safe to say it concludes with a feast. I don't think there's anything, I mean, if all goes
Yeah.
well, you can't have a venture called Feast of the Gobbler Witch and not have a feast involved. So
I think you cannot have a Thanksgiving Day adventure or a themed adventure without having something related to feasts and something related to turkey. I mean,
right.
yeah.
So I think that's I think if you just think about the permutations of what you can do with turkey in a 0-level funnel, I think it's just you may have some idea of what your 0-level characters may be facing. I mean,
That's right.
The only thing which is that we didn't manage to get like harpy turkeys in there, so we always do next year, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, and actually there are no in hindsight I should have done, what's that like the yam with marshmallow stuff on top.
Oh god, yeah, inedible. That'd be perfect.
Right. That should have made an appearance. Well, when we do the expanded edition, we'll make sure that guy gets in there.
Yeah. So this is so this was a lot of fun to put together. I think I should mention this. When the layout was done, it was kind of coming out. We kind of had like the center page on the adventure was kind of open, like there was enough room to play around with this, and it was decided that this would be the perfect place to put a placemat in. So it was. I think that was the genius basically that came from Matt Hildebrand. And Matt decided that he was going to put a placemat, which also doubled as a 0-level character drop cable chart. So basically you open it up, you have the placemat in front of you, you have all the little tables, and you can just drop your dice in there, and there you go. You basically have your class, your starting gear, like everything is all laid out on you. And if you laminate it, you can actually use it next year for Thanksgiving as well. So,
yeah, it's a very low touch 0-level generator, and it's got all your favorites in there that you just drop your dice on. It's like, oh, I'm a cobbler. So
no, I'm a cobbler versus a gobbler.
That's right. With my awl and shoehorn, I'm looking at it over here. Yeah.
So yeah, that's I think this is going to be a fun one. I know Joan has been saying that she had the chance to play test it. She had a lot of fun doing it. So
she did show. I think it was Judge Marlene that ran Judge Joan through it, and yeah, so I got some really good feedback. I always love the play testers, so thanks everybody who play test online or that we recruit on Discord or Twitch or any of those. So thank you so much.
Skunkworks TT I had a question. Is like, will my players have to eat anything gross?
Will they have to eat anything gross? Do they actually they have the opportunity to eat something gross, so that your players will have agency. So if they choose to eat something gross, that opportunity is in there.
There you go. No. Whether your players eat anything gross, I think that's up to you.
Right. Yeah. I would hope so. Yeah.
We had a running tradition for one of my gaming groups some time ago, is that the person on the way to the game had to stop by like the local convenience store and get the evilest snack they could think of. So
that's right.
So it was usually one of those like off-brand Dorito, like jalapeno mustard Dorito, Dorito knockoff brand or anything like that. So
we can bring in like some sea urchin sushi or something, the thing that looks like a tongue. Yeah.
Exactly. Gas station sushi. That's the perfect thing to serve along with Feast of the Gobbler Witch.
Right.
So the Feast of the Gobbler Witch is, surprise, if you've not picked up the theme of the show, will be available December 15th for the Goodman Games at the Goodman Games web store, and it will also be hitting the distributor chain that week as well. So, although it's a little late for Thanksgiving, we tried, but COVID, printer, world on fire, hey, everybody likes a good meal around the holidays. So
that's right.
The perfect time to try it out then as well.
And all things considered, hopefully we will have Thanksgiving next year, so you can just keep it on the shelf and bring it back out along with that gas station sushi, gas station turkey.
Right. like tinned cranberry sauce,
That's right.
The Gobbler Witch will last you all year round.
That's right.
Any final words of advice or any interesting details about the Feast of Gobbler Witch you want to share before we log out?
I did want to, like I said, I worked with some of the historical material, and I wanted to capture some of the religious elements of the Puritans without actually capturing the religious elements of the Puritans. So
always a smart move.
Yes, exactly. So you always want to play it safe on that one. So there is some devout religious stuff going on in it, but of course it's with DCC gods, so it's devout DCC religion. So I thought that was really fun to play up of what does witchcraft mean in a world of a DCC pantheon. So I just thought that was a fun part of it, and I hope the judges and players have a lot of fun with that element of the adventure.
Question from Chad, from Joan again. When does Thick Skull Publishing have something coming out? You got anything else? You got something on the side? I've been working you pretty hard, so I don't know if you have any time.
Yeah. So actually, there's a bit of a spin-off, if you will, that happens between Attack of the Frogs and Haunting of Larvik Island, called The Lighthouse at Shipbreaker Shoals. It's been written for a couple of years, and the only thing that I'm waiting on is 2 or 3 more pieces of art. So I'm hoping to get that out early next year. So actually that's coming as well.
All right.
Written by Ann Hunter, for all of you out there who know Ann Hunter, and then I just did a little spice on it. So
okay,
that's in the works.
So we're here to serve. We're here to serve all the fans. So whether it's DCC or DCC Goodman Games or Goodman Games adjacent. So more than happy to plug you, because you have, like Reid, have a long relationship with Goodman Games going back to the beginning. And then it started as semi-official. Now it's more official and all of that. So it's all the time.
That one's been languishing a while. It's been in the can, if you will. But COVID and work and day job and all that stuff. So, but it's pretty close. It's only 2 or 3 pieces of art away.
All right, so good. So hopefully next year we'll be hitting out. Be hitting the shelves, or at least Kickstarter, however you're getting out there. So
maybe we'll have it for we do GaryCon. I should put a deadline for myself. Yeah,
the GaryCon is March, so maybe Gen Con, maybe okay. or Origins.
Be pragmatic about this. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to thank you for sitting in and answering some questions. I'm going to do a quick roundup of kind of let people know what else is going on about DCC stuff before we call it a night. So
sounds good.
All right, so I just want you all out there to know a couple of updates. I came into this job, and every now and then you get a big hopper, and you put too much stuff in the hopper and it gets jammed up, and you need somebody to come along with a big stick and hit the side of the hopper. That's basically what my job has been. So I'm a guy with big stick, but luckily I'm very happy to see that the hopper is apparently moving. So we've got some progress going on. Some things not quite ready to announce yet, but I've been doing some interesting reading of stuff and kind of getting it ready to move maybe down to the stuff. So it's safe to say that some things that people have been clamoring for, pay attention in the next couple of months. We might have some names popping up that you're very interested, things that have been mentioned, things that have not been mentioned and stuff. But before then, just want to let you know, DCC Dying Earth has been made some amazing progress. We've kind of been doing, I brought in some extra writers to kind of help make sure that we're getting everything due on time. So we are looking at that September delivery date, and I am determined to meet it. So we're going to have something out hopefully by that point. I will have to say that, probably by the end of this month, we should be about maybe 66% done with the stretch goals. The box set books are just about ready to go into layout. So progress is being made all over that point. I know people were playtesting Errol's stretch goal adventure, and they were saying they were having a great time with the stuff that he wrote and everything. So I'm very happy with the way stuff is going on that. So that we're looking forward to that. Next month, we have a very special. Well, we'll have more details next month. But next month, we are going to be doing another mystery map contest, which some of you might recall back from, I think, it might have been 2014 that we did it. So that's kind of how we got The One Who Watches Below. And hopefully we're going to get at least another good adventure out of it. As I said, big hopper, a lot of stuff in it and everything. So we're looking to expand the Goodman Game writing pool, our freelancer and stuff. So I'll be making a more formal announcement that next month. But if you want to prep for it, the theme is going to be basically appendix and authors. So you'll get a map like we did for the mystery map. It will be a partial map, and it'll be up to you to fill out the rest of it. And we're going to ask you to choose an appendix and author and basically use that or them as kind of inspiration. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you have, and it should be awesome. So and I may draft Stephen into being a partial judge because hopefully if we get enough submissions like we did last time around, it's going to take a bunch of us to kind of weed through it and find out the good stuff. And so if it's been your dream to write for Goodman Games, start reading, start planning, because next month we'll have probably something more formal for you. But I think, like I said, to the guys before we came on last month, we had a lot of announcements at Empire Con. So not every memory on it's going to be a huge amount of stuff, but there is stuff happening. And once we get through the holidays next year, we're going to probably have more stuff to announce, more exciting stuff that I'm looking forward to. So I should mention, because since Stephen is here, Stephen is actually one of the people who's working on the Radiation Crawl Classics with me. And I have to say is that we're nowhere near anywhere, to do about that. But Stephen, I think the development meetings, I think we've got a bunch of neat ideas. I think we're all on the same page. And at least my opinion is so far it's going good.
Yeah, it's great. I don't know if you want to mention the other people that you've got in the mix or not, but
Tim Snyder and Julian Bernick are helping on that. I've had a lot of people volunteer to help. But one thing I learned from Lankmar, about 4 people on a design committee is about the most that you reach, because otherwise it gets crazy. So
yeah, it's great to be in on the ground floor, and some of the ideas that are coming up in the sessions have been wonderful. So I think people are going to really enjoy it when it hits the shelves.
Yeah, and we have a lot of stuff. So nowhere near anything getting to play test or anything yet. We're at least a year out on that. So, but I will be giving you updates from time to time as things go. But it's definitely one of the worst things. It's kind of like the first big thing that is under my new regime. So I'm very happy with it, and it scratches a lot of issues for me. So I'm very happy with it. So. All right, I think that's about it for now. I know people are clamoring for certain things, and certain things. Every time you mention it, we push it back another month. So wait until there's official announcement. I guarantee everything out there that people are clamoring for is coming. All right, it's just a matter of us trying to figure out when we're going to release it, because some things are easier to do than others. All right, so right now we're focusing on the stuff we can get out there into your hot little hands, and the stuff that is, takes a little bit longer, Okay, so all right, so that's it. And we'll see you next month, first Monday of January. I think it's the 3rd, actually. So hopefully you won't be hungover at that point, and you'll be here. We'll be able to talk about some new stuff. So thank you very much, Stephen, for joining me and speaking of, and we'll see you all again. Happy New Year. Very belated happy holidays. Yeah. Happy New Year. See you in 2022, when we hope that things will be a heck of a lot better. All right, and we are out. So.